Hey guys, welcome back to Hoosier Hardware, and today I want to talk about a few options you have to avoid paying extremely high graphics card prices, because as you probably know, as of the filming of this, graphics card prices are extremely high, and if you're trying to build a new rig or upgrade a rig, then you may want to avoid that particular market, at least at this moment. Now, one of the first recommendations I almost always make when markets for certain components are this high is to look at the used market, the secondhand market. Now, it's not always the best place to find quality components, but it is a really good way to find some stopgap components that'll get you by until the brand new market that you may want to participate in, maybe with buying something like a GTX 1070, 1080 Ti, or even 1060, or even some AMD cards. Once that market cools down a little bit, then you can get into buying a brand new card. But since that looks like it might be a while, you may want to go ahead and find a stopgap solution, and that's where the used market comes in. Now, for this video, I'm going to strictly be using eBay because it's a resource that's available to virtually everybody, and in most cases, it doesn't even matter where you are. That being said, use other websites as well, whether it be if you live in a country that has Gumtree or Craigslist, places like that you can find used components that are local, because sometimes with those local-based selling websites, you can actually find components for cheaper because people are just trying to unload them quickly or try to avoid paying some of the fees associated with sites like eBay, and sometimes you can just find a real diamond in the rough on those sites. So definitely use other resources, but for today we're sticking to eBay. Now, the first thing you have to realize with the used market right now is that even though it is the used market, it is an inflated market as well, and that's largely because new cards are so expensive. Also know AMD used cards right now are extremely expensive, and you're probably not going to find any recent AMD cards for reasonable prices. Case in point here, if you go to an RX 470 page and click the Buy It Now button, some of the ones that pop up are in the $400 neighborhood. We have one here, the MSI one, that is sub $400, but it doesn't look like you're actually going to be able to find a recent AMD card at a good price, so I would go ahead and really not even be looking at those. Now, on the NVIDIA side, things get a little bit more interesting. Some of their recent cards are still completely outrageously priced, like the GTX 1070 right now on eBay. Any of those are just sort of out-of-hand pricing because it's really makes sense. It's people that are trying to make a quick buck on a card that they've been using for a while. Maybe they've noticed that the market is just outrageously expensive, and then they think, hey, maybe I have an older card laying around that I can make do with for a while. I can cash in my 1070 now and make a buck on it, and then when the market cools down, maybe I can buy something brand new. Maybe the next series of NVIDIA cards will be out, or maybe I can upgrade to a 1080 Ti for effectively no cost. So there are a lot of 1070s out there, but they're priced like they're brand new cards, and it's just not worth your time. Oh, and by the way, always be aware of scams or things that are likely too good to be true, because I'm guessing this GTX 1070 is either non-functional or just non-existent. Now, if we step our used search down to the 1060, there are some 1060s that aren't completely outrageously priced. Now, keep in mind though, this is a 3GB 1060, but it will give you solid performance, and it will get you by for a good while, especially if you're a 1080p gamer. You may not even have to upgrade it for a couple or few years. So there are some 1060s out there that, while definitely overpriced compared to what they should be, are not completely way out of the ballpark. And then, of course, there are some 1060s that are out of the ballpark, and that's just something to look for. Now, with a 1060, ideally the 3GB one you'd be paying around the $200 price point, and a 6GB version you'd be paying somewhere in the $250 price point. With the market still extremely hot right now, you definitely, if you're buying brand new, are going to be paying way more than that. But for example, this Zotac card here, this 1060 with 6GB of RAM, that's actually right now not a terrible deal to get. Yes, you're overpaying for it, but you're also not overpaying by a crazy amount. But where you get into the cards that are really going to serve as your stopgap cards are even the older series NVIDIA cards. I would stick to the 900 series at this point because they still will get you by on 1080p gaming for the most part, even going down as far as something like a 960. to just get you by while you wait for the graphics card market to cool down. Now, this 960, for example, has a price point of $125. And it should be a really good card to get you going and just sort of making do at 1080p for a while. Now, the seller here says the card's never been overclocked, should be good to go, put it into a system and you're ready. And the nice thing about a card like this is that because its price has not been inflated by a crazy market on the high end of graphics cards, from the 1080 Ti down to the 1070s, down to the 1060s, and then of course on the AMD side, and even now affecting the 1050 Ti's, because this card's price has never really been inflated, if the market goes back or normalizes a bit more here later this year or even in the next few months, you can pick up the card you're actually wanting for your rig and then resell this card for either very little loss or no loss at all. Because again, its price is already at or about where the price of it should actually be. So you should actually be able to unload this type of a card and get most of your money back out of it. And by the way, that EVGA card is not unique among 960s. Here's one for $124. I don't know that I would go for these. These ones look kind of scammy. They don't have a brand attached to them, so I'd kind of avoid those types of cards. And then, of course, there are even older cards that you can look at. You can try to find a good deal on something like a GTX 780, which is, by today's standards, for what you're getting out of it, a bit of a power hog. But if your power supply is not a concern, and with a reference cooler, it may be kind of loud. But if that's not really a big concern for you, you could hop on and get a 780, which will still play modern games at respectable frame rates. And then, of course, you can really try to save money and truly get just a stopgap card. Something like a GTX 660 will still play some modern games at okay frame rates, provided that you're willing to drop settings down pretty far. For example, I've tested a 660 somewhat recently. That's a GTX 660, that is, and it still can play modern games, provided again that you're willing to really step down some of the settings. Some of the brand new games that are very graphically intensive probably won't be able to be run on this card. But if you don't play bleeding edge games all the time, if you still enjoy some of your older library or have older games that you want to check out, this could be an option, and you could always take a chance on something like this Dell OEM GTX 660 here. And I've already read the description with it, and basically the seller is saying, I have no way of testing it, so it's being sold as is. You could always take a shot at that, or you could go and buy a different 660 that has been tested for about anywhere from $90, and I've seen them cheaper. However, it looks like maybe the graphics card market is starting to affect the secondhand market as well. So you may have to still pay $70 to $90 for one of these, but it would be a truly stopgap solution for under the $100 price point. And then again, once that graphics card market does normalize, you can buy what you're actually looking for and possibly unload this card for, again, very little loss or even break even, depending on how expensive or how much money you paid for in the first place. But of course, all this comes about as a result for right now what is a very expensive graphics card market. You'll notice some of these GTX 1050 Ti's that are scrolling by on the screen right now. The cheapest one right now is actually an MSI low profile one that I'm seeing at $170. And GTX 1050s are clear up at the $140 price point in some cases. So sometimes you really do have to just find a card to get yourself by until the market cools off. And of course, this is only really if you can't really wait any longer to get your PC up and running. Maybe you have already purchased components and you're ready to go and you just need a graphics card at this point, or maybe you just want to get onto the PC platform and you just can't wait, you just can't hold yourself back any longer, and you want a way of getting started. In this case, some of these cards mentioned will get you by until the new market actually cools itself down, maybe cryptocurrency crashes a little bit, and things can get back to normal from a pricing perspective. But But of course, I'm curious to know from you guys, what are some of your solutions or recommendations rather for somebody that is about to build a gaming PC and is trying to save a buck while they wait on a new card to come down in price? What's a solution that you have to get them by in the meantime? Let me know down below. And of course, if you like this content, give it a like, a share, subscribe, or comment. Those things help out a lot. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. They are the same tag for your convenience. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a few more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.